Hi, I'm Laurie from Madison Bookkeeping, and in this video, I'm going to teach you how to set up a brand new QuickBooks file for your medical practice. All right, let's get started. All right, let's talk about setting up a new QuickBooks file for your medical practice. I specialize in psychiatry and therapy bookkeeping, but we will do this one a little more general and for a medical practice. So what you're first going to need to do is just search for QuickBooks Online pricing. It'll take you to a pricing page, and look, here we go. Let's check out this one. Depending on the page you go to and how you Google it, sometimes you can't see essentials, and I can't explain that. So just try and find the one where you see Simple Start and Essentials. And if you don't see that, go back, Google it again, because it kind of depends on how you're Googling and what page Intuit Owns QuickBooks takes you to. All right, so let's look at these plans, and I will give you my honest opinion about what I would do in the beginning. You have to determine how many people will be working inside of your QuickBooks, and that will be your first question, right? So Simple Start, if you are the only person and you don't have any employees, you would only pick Simple Start. But let's say you have multiple people that you want to give access, and this does not include your bookkeeper or your CPA. They have their own accounting portals with QuickBooks, so they do not count on your user count. But if you have a true employee who does not have an accounting business and you want access and you want your employee to have access, or anyone that's not a true accounting business, then you would have to start out with Essentials. Okay, Essentials is a good plan, and there's really not a lot different between Simple Start and Essentials, especially for a medical practice, because remember, you cannot do any patient billing inside of QuickBooks because it is not HIPAA compliant. So a lot of the things that are beneficial, you're not going to really have a need for because you can't do that invoicing there. All right, even though you can do invoicing, it says now in Simple Start. They used to not allow that, so that's different. The one thing I would say that now I'm not even sure, I don't talk about classes enough in here, but if you're already at multiple locations, you should already have QuickBooks or some sort of software. So I'm going to speak more to a new person starting a medical practice or one taking over and wanting to gain control of their finances. I would highly doubt that a practice owner with multiple locations would be watching my video, right? Probably doubtful. So usually, my audience is like someone, they're starting a new dental practice, any type of practice, and they are wanting to understand this. And then usually quite quickly then decide that it's too much, and then they choose an outside bookkeeping company. My company, Madison we only take on clients in the mental health field. So we work specifically with solo mental health practitioners. So just to know that. But I also offer QuickBooks coaching if, as we get through this, you find that it's a little too daunting and you need a little guidance. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say, okay, I'm a small practice. Right now, it's just me. And here's the great thing. If you pick Simple Start, it's very easy to go from Simple Start and move up to Essentials. So if you're just starting out, you're really not sure who's going to have access to your QuickBooks, then just start with Simple Start. It's really easy to keep upgrading as your practice grows. So I'm going to click this one. I'm going to say choose plan. Now it's offering payroll. Payroll is a whole outside discussion, right? But don't add it now because it's too many things to be setting up all at once. It is nice having the payroll inside of your accounting software because it syncs and you don't have to post a payroll journal, which is a whole other topic. But it is nice to have your payroll inside of your QuickBooks. I do with my company, but there's also plenty of other companies you can buy your payroll from. So one step at a time. Okay, a lot of you have started a QuickBooks file and then you abandoned it. You weren't sure what you were doing. It was overwhelming. You thought you would do it. You didn't. And now you came back. And you probably still have the same email. So you're not going to sign up, you're going to sign in, okay? And if you go to sign up and it says you already have an account, then you're going to need to just reset your password, have them send you the password, and they will do it from there. Okay, so look, if you truly never signed up, but so many people I work with, they go, we're doing this step by step because you can hire me and I can help you get this set up from the beginning, which does help when we're doing this process, it's already popping and saying they have an account. The other reason you could have gotten an account is if someone sent you a 1099 through Intuit. There's so many ways. So don't let that alarm you if you get that notice that you already have an account. Just go down here and say sign in. Now I'm going to have to sign in because this is a demo file. I'm using a special email and I'm not going to keep recreating emails. So I'm going to say sign in. I'm going to pause this for 1 second. Okay, so I'm signed in, and here is my old file that I've used in prior YouTube videos. So you don't want to choose that, right? Because that's the old file that you possibly kind of did, and then you gave up, and now we're back to square one. Don't use that file. It'll just be a disaster, and I've had people do that where they kind of like abandon a file, and then they tried to start it again years later, but then you have all of these bad balances and numbers, so don't do that. Go down here and click Create a New Company. Okay, so I've entered my billing information, and now you are going to have to fill out certain items, right? What were you using before? This doesn't really matter. So just say spreadsheets. You don't need to enter your website. Some of this really doesn't matter. You just need to do that. So now this is a pain. It wants you to do all of these things. Just pick any of them to keep going, and then just say skip. Don't sign up for payments. You have medical practice. You cannot do that in QuickBooks. Okay, again, we're not setting up payroll right now. So you say not right now, skip. Okay, so now we have effectively purchased the QuickBooks and we've made it to the home screen, and now we will start the setup. So now we have purchased a QuickBooks and we have tried not to give it too much information. And then what we will do is I'll go through the next steps. My next step when I set up a brand new file is to import a chart of accounts. Now I have 2 sets of accounts. I have a medical chart of accounts, and I also have one for a private practice. Okay, so depending on your practice, I'll have both of these links in our description. One is for a mental health practice, and then I have here a medical chart of accounts. It has some extra things that you wouldn't have really probably for a psychiatry practice. It's just a question about lab fees and certain medical supplies. So this medical chart of accounts you could use for a dental practice or, any medical practice. So for this tutorial, I'm going to import the medical chart of accounts, but just so you know, you can click the link in our description and you can get a download of the mental health. So in order to do that, because our chart of accounts has numbers, we're going to go over to the top right. Now, mind you, you see that there's lots of pop-ups happening. That is because it's a brand new file. You also need to remember that QuickBooks likes to sell you lots of other things. They're going to try and sell you insurance, payroll, you name it, they're selling it, okay? Just be careful with certain things like that, and be careful about how much information you give QuickBooks. So up here at the top right, I'm clicking the gear. I'm going to account and settings. I believe it's in advanced. So here we can fix some of these things. So most, especially a new medical practice, would probably be on a cash basis. Fiscal year January, fine. Now this has changed, cash. We're going to go right here to enable an account number. If you have an existing QuickBooks file, don't import my chart of accounts. Okay, because this chart of accounts is for a brand new file, and then you still have to go and clean up whatever may or may not come in. You have a real chance of duplication. So this can be used as just a printout as guidance as to what expense categories you have, but you don't want to import this if you already have a lot of these in your file already. You're just going to create chaos. So I would say if you already have a file going on that you've been using, just print this out and look for ones you should use or should have. Use it for guidance on how you standardize your numbering of your accounts if you want to number. You don't have to. Pluses to numbering, but then a lot of people have a hard time categorizing when things have numbers. So there's a kind of a give and take in accounting and using accounting software. So just keep that in mind. So we have turned on the numbers. And so it's kind of giving you guidance into parts of this. Be careful. Okay, so now I'm going over here and I'm going to teach you something right now as we go. Anything you use a lot, I would recommend bookmarking because then it'll be up at the top and you can go to them. So something I use constantly is the chart of accounts. So I'm going to go over to the right and I'm going to bookmark it. So what did I just say? I said, be careful importing a chart of accounts because you could already have a bunch of accounts and you're going to create duplicates. It's going to be a disaster. It created a whole bunch of accounts, but you're not going to need them. You're not, I mean, a small medical practice shouldn't have stockholders. That's like a C Corp. There's certain things that could be in here, but a newbie in QuickBooks is not going to be posting deferred income taxes, lease buyouts. Like a lot of this doesn't pertain to you. It's very vague. Even though we said and told it that this was a medical practice, you can see that in this case, and sometimes it does better, I can't figure out the logic to it, that a lot of these do not work. I do want to show you how to read this though. So when this says BAL, that means these numbers are going to show up on your balance sheet. The blue P&L means profit and loss. In accounting, there are lots of acronyms. So just understand that. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to deactivate this, but I'm only going to show you a little, and then I will pause the video and come back because it does take a little bit. So I want to get rid of everything because I don't want to use their chart of accounts. I am starting a brand new file. I want to use my chart of accounts. But there are certain things it will not let you delete. They're like mandatory QuickBooks accounts. So I'll show you how it works. Now, again, you're not going to delete everything if you have an existing file. But if there are things that you don't want to be using in your file, I'll show you how to do one, and then I'll show you to batch to it. So let's say you have an existing file. I have a lot of people on my training coaching sessions, and they say, Laurie, can you just please help me clean up? There's so many categories. I don't have those. It's too many categories to pick from when I'm trying to, post my bank feeds. So I'll show you that. So what you can do is you could drop down on the right and you can say make inactive. Now, some of them, it will not let you make inactive. Now that one it was. Now, if we go back here and we say show include inactive, it's going to say deleted. See that? Deleted. It's not really deleted. Nothing's ever deleted. So it's just, you can't see it now. So now I'm going to take that out of my view. Now let me show you what I can do here. I can go over to the left. Again, only do this if you have a brand new file and you want to import my chart of accounts or someone else's. But don't do it if you already have a file going on. Just create a mess. Right here it says batch actions, make inactive, say yes. Now it's going to say like 25 didn't work. Well, it's not too bad, 10. Okay, so what it's saying here is I can't deactivate because some have sub accounts. So I'm going to show you how to do that. It said cost of goods has to stay, opening balance equity, you do need that one. So that's fine. Payments to deposit, you're not going to ever need this. If you're in a medical practice, you cannot post any sort of payments or invoicing in your QuickBooks. So let me just show you what we do for things we're not going to use. So payments to deposit, that is like considering if someone paid you a bunch of checks and you were posting against accounts receivable and you had to drive all the checks to the bank. Like I used to have a plastic surgeon and ENT practice, right? And I used to go on site and there would be just stacks of checks that the biller would post and I would have to take to the bank. That would be kind of like between the office, when the checks are sitting in the office and before they get to the bank. So on things we don't want to use that we cannot deactivate, we're going to say edit. This is a trick I learned from a bookkeeper 20 years ago. I put 3 X's on it. Now, what did that do? First of all, it made it so it went down. This is the only one in this zone of detail. But now whenever you go and see that, you'll know not to use it because it has X's in front of it. Okay. Again, you don't want to have uncategorized asset. There is no such thing as an uncategorized asset. These are bad things QuickBooks does to try and help non-accountants make horrible, bad decisions. You never would use uncategorized asset. We cannot, there's no such thing. Okay. So here, let's go to these. All of these have to be unsubbed in order to make them inactive. So I'll do one more, then I'm going to pause here. We'll do continuing education, right? I'm going to click that box. And now let's go back to continuing education. Now it should deactivate. Bam. Okay, so I'm going to pause this video. I'm going to go get everything off of here, and then we will circle back. Okay, guys, so I got rid of everything, and anything I couldn't get rid of, I put X's in front of. And this is so that we can import our chart of accounts. So you would not do this if you already had things started. So I put X's in front of everything else. Look, guys, you don't want anything that says uncategorized. You need to figure out the category. If, God forbid, you can't figure out a category, create one called Ask My Accountant or look into something where it's very specific that you need to go figure it out. Uncategorized is silly because if you actually post to it, it actually has been categorized. So that makes no sense. Okay, so now we're in the chart of accounts. We can import. So I'm going to just go down here and see if I didn't download it already. I'm going to re-download it. And this is how you would get it. Okay, so I'm going to say import. I haven't done this in a long time, so hopefully it goes okay. Okay, so here it is. It shows it. We say next. So I have everything there, so that should be fine. Detail, account number. So that's all. I think something goes wrong here. Let's see. Okay, so we're importing 62. I can't see the lines here. Okay. The detail's been picked. Detail's kind of silly. This is a QuickBooks Online only thing. It's not in desktop, but it should pretty much be similar to your regular type. Okay. So we have patient fees as an income. We have cash rewards as an income. That is, right? Like if on your credit card, they get you redeem a whole bunch of points, you have to post that correctly. Patient refunds. That is a contra income account. That means money you're giving back, and you do not want that up in your patient fees income. You need to see how much money you have to give back. Okay, so then I had deactivated the cost of goods sold that was in the standardized QuickBooks one, but because we have a number and then we have certain ones that are sub accounts, so we're setting it up, that way. All right, so this looks fine. We'll see if anything goes wrong when we click next. Okay, so it said it worked. So I just want to show you what you should do. So now we'll always have a couple of these with the X's because it wouldn't let me get rid of them, right? But before you move any further, stop, take a minute, just take a beat and think about, like, why did you do this? This is the foundation. If you were building a house, this is the foundation of your accounting software. These are the categories that show up on your balance sheet report and your profit and loss report. Right? So the balance sheet is your balances of your checking account, the balance of the value of your equipment that you purchased, the balance on your credit card. Then the profit and loss is a total of how much money came in income, and then how much money you spent in expenses and what was your net income. So just realize that these categories are really important, and the people who do the best at posting their QuickBooks and working in QuickBooks usually print their list. Okay, because if you print this, you'll know what your categories are, and you'll be less likely to create a brand new category that's exactly the same as one you already had because you forgot that you called it cell phone and now you want to call it telephone, and tomorrow you want to call it utilities, right? So if you print your list and have an actual piece of paper, I'm a Gen Xer, I believe in paper. If you print it, you will have a much easier time of adding the transactions that will then create your reports. And you will be less likely to create duplicate codes. I have gone into some books to fix them, and there were so many categories that were literally the same thing. And they were categorizing, depending on who did it or whatever, they would have the Verizon bill in 4 different categories over the course of a year. So that's why you really should print it. Okay, so that is your main building point. The next thing to connect your bank account. So I'm going to show you how to do that, and that will be pretty much your whole setup. The next piece would be posting and adding the transactions, which I will probably make another video for. So this is just complete, get it set up, okay? All right, so we have our chart. So don't go and set up anything until you have your chart of accounts created, because it's just going to be a disaster. So please, this is step 1. I mean, this is actually step 2 because we had to buy the file. Then we deactivated all the old accounts and we imported a chart of accounts. So now we are going to go and connect the bank, and I'll walk you through what you're doing there, but I actually can't connect it to a bank because it's a demo file. So you're going to go up here to bank transactions. This should also be bookmarked. You're going to get so many pop-ups in the beginning. Okay, now you really should try and connect your account. If you're trying to do like a whole year from the past, you may have to go to your bank and download a QBO file and then upload it. Because let's say if you're connecting it now in January of 2026, but you want to post all of 2025, your bank might only go back 6 months where they can give you that connection piece. So you'll have to import the difference. Okay. So but let's just say you're starting fresh. You decided it's a brand new year. You're going to start doing QuickBooks. And remember, if any of this is a little too daunting, I offer QuickBooks coaching. You click connect account. And so this is where you will pick your bank. I would not do this phone thing. Just go to the sign on the web. So you're going to enter your username and password, and then you're going to click sign in. So let me show you the one part that's going to be critical that we need to make sure you have, which you maybe should look at before you actually do that. Okay, so I have it as checking, right? So that's great. So you would have picked, you go through the Chase thing, it's going to ask you which account do you want to connect it to, right? Because whatever one you picked, if you had checking or petty cash, if you picked another one, right? But you might want to do this. If you have, I hope you don't have multiple bank accounts, but you might want to say Chase checking, okay? And then maybe you have to add another bank account because you have one at Bank of America. So when you're doing that connection, that will be the piece that you're looking for, right? And it's going to ask you which one would you like to do. So you're going to pick that, and then it's going to load a whole bunch of transactions. I will create a completely different video regarding that on how to post those transactions. But you have gotten to the step where you have purchased the QuickBooks, you have imported a chart of accounts specific to the medical field. You now understand that you cannot do any billing inside of your QuickBooks, which means you should not set up a merchant account. It's going to ask you if you want to. It's even going to maybe sign you up, even though you didn't ask to be, to have a merchant account. I see that quite a bit too. So just remember, this is a beginning point. I will create another video on the whole process of what to do now that you've gotten this far. All right, I hope you found this helpful. Again, I offer QuickBooks coaching for medical practices, and I offer QuickBooks coaching for mental health practices, as well as fixed fee bookkeeping. All right, have a great day.